George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation. During the Martin Luther King Jr. 38th annual celebration at the JMA Wireless Dome, something new and something exciting is about to happen. Well, if you're listening to this today, which is Sunday, January 22nd, or anytime between now and then, on the Sunday of the dinner at 4:15 p.m., the doors will open to the Club 44, which will have an art exhibit. And one of the artists featured will be Jessica McGhee. She's a fine artist. She uses creative arts therapy. She's in the School of Visual and Performing Arts working on a master's. Am I right about that? So far, so good? Native of Los Angeles, California. And part of the work that she does explores creative arts therapy to help with intergenerational trauma, domestic violence, and also people who are marginalized and poverty in poverty. All right, or not of means, which I guess that's what marginalized means. I'm saying all of that to welcome you to the program, and you describe your art as divine wanderings. And so tell me about you and your art and what people should know about Jessica McGhee.
Well, my art really explores the human condition and how trauma and intergenerational trauma impacts us as beings existing together. Trauma, I feel, is a major poison in our society that we just really need to root out. It takes a lot of work to go through that healing process, and there are a lot of things that happen with the body, the physical body, as a result of trauma, causing diseases and just hyperreaction to situations. And I feel that when people are more educated on how trauma impacts them personally, they can start to regain control over that process of re-owning, their bodies and reaching self-actualization.
What occurs to me is that I don't know that I'm in trauma, right? That trauma has happened to me and my reaction to it may not be intuitive. Like I might not know that the thing that I saw, because it's been so normalized, right? So how do we undo that piece, and how does art help with that?
So trauma exists mostly in the nonverbal realm. If you think of like muscle memory, right? It's stored in the body. People don't, like when you're experiencing a traumatic event, the reptilian part of the brain takes control over the executive functioning part of the brain, and it suppresses it. Basically, in that fight or flight mechanism, it takes over to get you to safety and save your life. And so while the executive functioning part of your brain is either offline or suppressed, you won't remember things from the actual traumatic event, or you will remember very small, certain things. You'll have flashbacks of something that happened. And in that process, the body holds on to it. Like you can even have triggers / activations that, are olfactory. Certain sounds, certain scents can be a trigger or an activation for you, sending you back into that flashback mode. And that keeps it current in your mind as if it happened, today, even if it was, say, 10 years ago. And then also in terms of intergenerational, when we experience trauma, our bodies go through that physiological process and it retains that information. Now, when it retains that information, it gets passed down to our children so we can better protect our children in the future. So really the main point is, one, understanding that, you are safe, in the space that you're in, if you have, gotten out of the dangerous experience, because, with say intimate partner violence or child abuse, it can be trauma over an extended period of time. So that would be chronic trauma. So really getting yourself to that safety or understanding when you are safe and working from there, moving forward is really key. And art therapy is really helpful because it works on that nonverbal realm. Like it allows you to take all of these feelings that you're having that you can't put words to, and it allows you to put it onto a piece of paper or whatever it is that you're working on. It's externalizing that. And then you're able to look at it from a different perspective. And from there, you can start to regulate it.
And so, as you were speaking, what my mind immediately went to was the trauma and legacy of slavery and being enslaved, and how that can be passed on through generations in our DNA, and how we might be living with that trauma. How does your art understand that, and how do you process that?
It's really about sifting through all of the external stimuli, things that are activating, understanding, the here and the now, and, actively working to keep yourself in a safe situation instead of chronically going back to familiar patterns, or not really giving yourself the value that you should be giving yourself in order to leave those situations. A lot of times, people in situations of intimate partner violence feel like they can't do any better, and they stay. And that right there will just continue to tear them apart further, pull them away from their true self, their highest good. And so really kind of coming to understand, the complexity of your being, right? And understand what you are worth. I mean, even a person that perpetrates the trauma is traumatized in that moment. So it's really about breaking a chain, breaking a system, and relearning how to cherish yourself and how to view others around you. Like if you know someone that's really impacted by trauma, and you kind of see them, going through all of these things, let them know that, you are there to support them. Like that is the most important thing, because oftentimes people with trauma will lose a lot of relationships, positive relationships, as a result of their trauma.
But I want to harken back. I want to revisit what you said about people who are in intimate partner violence situations who don't believe that they have other options. Well, part of it the key word you said was safe. It may not be safe for them to leave in that situation, and so that trauma is. And once they do leave that situation, now they're reliving that trauma through some of the triggers, et cetera, et cetera. And so I want to just be careful that we make sure that when somebody can leave, is often part of the equation, not necessarily that they don't want to leave or feel that they can't leave. They're not. Sometimes it's not a choice that they can make in that moment.
And oftentimes the system is not supportive. Like the system will say that it's, supportive of the survivors. And, there are awesome programs like Vera House is amazing. But when it comes to, say, integrating a stay-at-home mom, through Vera House and into the system so she can support, herself and her children on her own, there are a lot of limitations that are faced, a lot of blockades and boundaries, which are extremely difficult to get through, unfortunately. And, the more we work with trauma and the more that we produce art that speaks to it, the more we'll raise public awareness and, give other people that courage to step out. And the more that we step out, the more the system will need to recognize, its flaws and its shortcomings.
Talking with Jessica McGhee, she's a visual artist, also works through creative arts therapy to heal trauma through a number of different issues that people might be dealing with. So back to your art, because we're talking about what your art is impacting, but your art itself and the spiritual element that I am perceiving in the way you describe your art, and how when people walk through the exhibit, what you hope that they feel when they walk through there. Because when you say creative arts therapy, yes, you're a visual artist, but this therapy can also be in the form of other arts forms. So help me through this
So,
understanding. Yeah.
okay, so one, my art itself is a reflection of the beauty that I see in others. I'm constantly cherishing different nuances that I sense from people, different emotions, different feelings, their innate beauty within themselves as a person, as a spiritual being. Now, when it comes to art therapy, art isn't used to be this pretty image. As I tell my clients, we're not making something magnificent, we're using art as a tool. When art is used as a tool to kind of work inside that nonverbal part of yourself, then you can use it to pull the things out. So we're not really going based on what things look like per se, or trying to hang it in a gallery. It's more of just something that's a tool that we use to pull out all of that stuff that our body is hanging on to.
So when I go to the show, what do you want me to experience?
Honestly, I don't like to tell people what to experience.
I see
Sometimes
you avoided that. Yes. So go ahead.
yeah, yeah. I do sometimes include writings or poems that go with my paintings, but at the same time, I want people to have their own experience, their own realizations,
Mhm,
their own notions.
mhm.
So it's
And
all very
and
complex.
and so the idea of divine wanderings. Tell me how that concept came to be.
Just because I feel like I'm always around people watching, being curious about things, going hiking, being very curious about nature and its own beauty, because nature also has proven scientifically to provide resilience benefits to the brain. So people who experience a lot of trauma should really expose themselves to nature as much as possible. And I try and include that in all of my paintings. And just seeing an image of nature can have a similar impact on the brain as well. Just having something there to kind of, replenish, refresh, recharge the brain, the mind, the soul.
You'll be featured along with artists Jaleel Campbell, Vanessa Johnson, and David McDonald. Um, and I believe that just this I in the how, just the notion of infusing art into the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What do you have to say about that and the King legacy, and positioning you all in this way to help tell this story?
Well, Dr. King was about love, and it's kind of the same translation for me. It's communicating love for all beings, whether it's those who trespass us and those
Mhm.
who do not, because even those that trespass us, there's a reason for that. They experience something, whether it be in their childhood or in their life at some point. That harmful behavior, is something that was learned in them, and it's a defense mechanism, right? So if we kind of consider those people that are harming others, as one, using a defense mechanism, and as two, continuing to harm themselves further, with each, either psychologically or physically violent act, they do, then we can look at them with more compassion and try and be there for them too. I mean, I know it's hard. I know it's scary. And a lot of people, it's safer, to avoid people like that. But if you are, not in a personal setting with that person, but you are working with them professionally, right, then it is okay to engage, right, on those behaviors and let them know how much they're worth. So really, it's all based in love. Space was made for all of us to exist, for all of us to self-actualize, for all of us to fulfill our purpose. And sometimes we get lost, and art, and art therapy can help us find our way out of that.
So describe what happens in art therapy, like what for this clients that you describe who have maybe experienced childhood trauma, intimate partner violence, some other form of trauma. What happens in an art therapy session?
So right now I'm running group sessions. I'm in my third semester of internship, and I will be starting one-on-one sessions this semester But in my group sessions, it's focused on your trauma symptoms and identifying which symptoms you specifically experience, because there's hypoarousal, there's hypervigilance, there's also hypoarousal. So you have all of these different things. Like hypoarousal is kind of like a numbing down. You're not really sensing what's going on. And hyperarousal is kind of like, the pounding heartbeat and the sweaty palms and the panic attacks and stuff like that. So one, understanding that these are all symptoms of an illness and they're not actually character traits, is something that is extremely important, because that's another thing that impacts the self-worth too. If, someone's feeling like they're all over the place and they can't think straight, they may think it's them, but it's really the PTSD or the CPTSD. So you have to start at the base level, kind of building self-worth and understanding of, what's yours and what's not yours.
Yeah, I love in some of your art, for example, you know, there's the one with the tree, right, where the tree is sort of bending, and it kind of just goes on. What are you telling us there? What are you telling us there? Not what I'm experiencing, but what are you telling us from your perspective?
So from that piece, I actually I did that piece. Where was I? I was camping by myself and with my dog. And I brought all my paint stuff with me. It was, a self-care weekend. And I just decided to focus on this one tree. And it was, so trees, what they do is, one, they feed each other, right? They nurture, they take care of each other, but they also kind of lean out to reach the nutrients that they need to get from the sun. They make their way to get what they need. And that tree was just beautiful to me because, trees, they find a way to survive. And trees also, they provide so much for people in general. One, they clean our air, right? We use them to, build our homes. They are a source of shelter for us. They can be a source of heat. They give. If you think of like the Giving Tree, the book for kids, they just give and they give and they give and they witness and they love, right? They take care of us. So that tree, in just its own existence, I found it beautiful. Yeah, and I like beauty.
And this piece is that piece that I'm referring to is called Implicit Resiliency. So you and then there's a poem that goes with it, where you say, trees bearing all witness, the eyes of nigh tidal waves, whilst we dance under our sun and seeing blades of shale and green. For you, I stand here, our heart open to the sky, for my truth lies within your witness. And just that line right there was basically saying, well, this is what I'm interpreting. So here's my interpretation of that, right? I am sitting here and allowing myself to just be in this moment and in that presence to take this all in. That's what I got from those few lines right there. So
yeah, and that's what we need more of. We need to just be still in the moment and see what's going on around us, not worried about the past, not worried about the future, but just being present in the right now. That's extremely important.
Well, Justin McGhee is one of the artists that will be featured as part of the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration, 38th annual Martin Luther King Jr. celebration, happening later today when you see this, at the I keep saying Cary Dome, the JMA Wireless Dome. Doors open for the art exhibit at 4:15. You will need a ticket for the dinner if you're going to the dinner. If not, you can go to the art exhibit, wait an hour or two, and then you can hear the rest of the program because dinner will start at 5 o'clock. So check out this art exhibit. Great artists. The artists, once again, that will be featured include Justin McGhee, Vanessa Johnson, Jaleel Campbell, and I thought I saw Dave McDonald too, but whether or not he's going to be there or not, we're going to at least have Vanessa, Jaleel, and Jessica. And check this out. Again, the art gallery will open at 4:15 p.m. and you can visit mlk.syr.edu as part of this, and we're having this conversation in partnership with Hendricks Chapel of Syracuse University. Jessica, anything else you want us to know about you and the art that you do?
I just want people to know that I believe in them and that they are completely capable, and to point out what it is that you are most passionate about, that you care most about, and go for it and serve your purpose, believe in yourself and get there. And that's what I want my work to say to people. We are all complex, beautiful beings.
All right, Jessica McGhee, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Inspiration for the Nation.